Well, Amy, thank you for joining me here today. What I'd like to start with is go ahead and let you introduce yourself and share about what you do daily at your job and who you work for.
Yeah, my name's Amy Thorn. I'm a lawyer by training, but I also have a master's in public health, and I've had a really interesting career for a lawyer. But my current role is I'm the general counsel of a small data science firm called Knowly Data Science, Knowli. But I also serve as a data scientist for the company. And most of what my day-to-day is, one, writing proposals for new work, but two, one of our biggest contracts is Florida Medicaid. So we do a lot of data analysis for the Florida Medicaid program. And we've done that for, gosh, over a dozen years. Yeah.
Great. Well, with that, what are some of the things that you need to be cognizant of, especially working with that personal information that you deal with day in, day out when it comes to the data you're mining or analyzing?
A few things. One, it's almost all HIPAA protected, public personal health information. So we do have to be more careful with that. But the kind of good thing is, for the vast majority of our work, we're analyzing it for internal use. So it's never going to basically see the light of day. So we tend to not have to go through the added steps of ensuring that we're compliant whenever we do, as you would if you make it public. We do have several public facing things that do have to go through the privacy officer review. And the thing I've found interesting working for a few different large state government institutions that deal in health data is that there's a lot of variance between what privacy officers will allow or not. But in general, here, the one I'm working at is anything that can be identified fewer than 30 in any kind of geographic area, we don't allow it. So 30 in a county is like our cutoff. So that's one of the main things. And two is we have a lot of data, but a lot of data gets shared with us from our sister agencies, and we have data use agreements for that. So we have to be really cognizant of using those data correctly. One of the biggest ones is our vital statistics data, which is in general just the official record of births and deaths. And that's very helpful for our analysis because we can see, the whole Florida population in that data set and can see how, disparities exist within our, Medicaid population. So it's very helpful, but we have to be really careful about the data and how we use it. And it's almost all internal use only. But even how that's stored, it's gotta, you have to be listed on the data use agreement. It is a protected area of a SQL Server database. You can't write tables outside of that database. And so there are, some general internal controls to think about as an individual doing data science for a large organization. But I also wear another hat, which is like thinking about the company itself and its liabilities. And because we're a contractor, we really have to make sure we ensure our staff have the correct training, that we have our own policies and procedures that we audit or review on a regular basis to make sure we're compliant. But one of the biggest things I say is if you're gonna own a business that does this kind of stuff, is you need good insurance. So there's something called E&O insurance, like errors and omissions, kind of like an umbrella. That's something I would absolutely recommend having. We haven't had to use it for anything, but it's a nice little safety measure to have. Yeah.
So as a data science, or the things that your data scientists are using, are they aware of that liability? Are there kind of structures in place to help make sure that they are staying within the bounds of the agreement?
They're definitely aware. Well, one, we have like an animal or HIPAA training. Two, we're all like business associates. We're under business associate agreements for using health data. Are they aware? Gosh, I think that no one's going to be as aware as I am, but I really hope so is the answer. The other thing that's nice to know, though, is that all of our analysis it occurs inside their own inside the state system, right? So a lot of it is pretty self-contained by the structure of how you access things. So that's good to know. But we do discuss this, on a pretty regular basis, making sure people are like doing what they're supposed to do, not like emailing files to yourself outside of your VPN, the really basic things. But yeah, you'd be surprised. I mean, it does happen, but not with my team, but I've seen it. I've seen other people just, they're trying to get the work done. And sometimes it's easy to see that the structures, the rules can be a hindrance to getting things done quickly, right? But, that's just part of it.
Are there different tools that you all are typically using when it comes to this data to make the analysis?
Yeah, I mean, we've grown a lot in the last few years, so we try not to like require certain tools, but in general, most of our data are housed in SQL servers. So some people just query in SQL, but a lot of people are using R or Python to get what they need out of the SQL servers. We do have some SAS processes, but the data as it stands is all housed in SQL servers.
So do you see a lot? Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, but there's this big cliff coming in my, ahead of us in the next year, because they've redone their data warehouse. It's being rebuilt right now by another contractor. So eventually we're gonna be in data lakes, Redshift data lakes. So we'll see how that goes.
We're touching a lot on serverless data and analysis using those different tools that are pulling from data lakes. So definitely a key topic that's coming down the line. A lot of the content is around AWS's tool sets. So they have a lot of training. Google has a lot of training, Oracle, IBM. So getting a little bit of disparity across those different tool sets so that they can be aware of what's coming. So with that in mind, what does that mean for your organization? So you were, building on one stack and the skill sets you have in the organization, and then now you're making this shift.
Yeah, I think it will be, it's a learning curve for the entire agency. This procurement is something like $175 million. It's something insane. And like Medicaid has a ton of data, a lot of data. And the work we do is a subsystem of a subsystem, because how the original, thing was built was as like a financial accounting tool. And then on that, they built like a decision support system on top of that. And then somewhere along the way, we're like, gosh, these systems suck. Can we just like pull extracts on a regular basis to our SQL servers, and we'll work off of that. So we know we're working in like a kind of weird world that will change fundamentally when the warehouse does become live. However, that like institutional knowledge is so important, because it's a very complicated program, and the data are not very clean or straightforward or easily interpreted. So, but I do anticipate some of our older or the ones with the most experience with the current system are going to struggle the most, right? But we have people we've just hired that aren't going to spend enough time in our current system before we kind of shift to this other one. So I'm hoping it's okay. But we recognize that every process we do will change. Hopefully the data lakes makes it a lot better, because a lot of our, like the way they build up the SQL Server system that we do have is a little convoluted and not also probably wasn't created with keeping everything in mind that it would need to be used for. So yeah, flexibility is required. And luckily we've got some really smart data scientists on our team that have some really innovative ways to go around, accomplishing their requests.
You mentioned some industry expertise. Does that bring the most value to it to be able to make those different queries or run the analysis? You talk a little bit about what that means and how that can be really translated into the tool sets that you're seeing.
Absolutely. So you said this, that you're teaching this in an MBA program. And data science is like a ballooning thing that, and people like to say they want data science, they want machine learning. What for my company, what makes the difference? Yes, we have lots of really smart people that can do lots of data science, but they have expertise in a field that is also on point for what the topic is. So we're healthcare, right? And we do have some contracts with education too. But the whole thing about our company is subject matter expertise with data science, all in one person. So our ACA team, our team that does Medicaid, we have an actual medical doctor who's become a data scientist. So we have got with clinical knowledge and understands how things like get coded and why in this situation someone would do something a certain way. We've got a sociologist, an inequality sociologist, who she knows like, well, we know systems of power, race and class and gender, all how those things play into how people get healthcare. And that's been really interesting. We had a demographer. She knew a lot about how, the rural, like your zip code and how the geographic space of where you live impacts, how you access healthcare. We've got an economist. He's really good at understanding, doing the financial parts that impact the running of the program. We just hired two more people. One, we got a mathematician, which so not like an actual, like, he doesn't know much about healthcare, but boy, he can come up with some really good models if we want to think about our algorithms. And we just hired a clinical psychologist who's a data scientist. And these are all people that in their PhD programs did a lot of heavy math, right? They became data scientists as a their quantitative analysis is part of their, graduate degree in a certain topic. And now we're like just using both. And I can't tell you how valuable that is. We're starting to get clients in other spaces, more private spaces, and that translation ability between like the IT person that just like reports on this data, but doesn't understand how it works at all. And then like the leadership person who has to make decisions and doesn't know enough about the IT to know like if something's wrong or not. We try to be that communicator. And it's been so far it's been really, really a positive for us. And I think it's very positive for our clients. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely the terminology around it has evolved through the years. You have project manager, data scientist, business analyst. I think with what you're seeing today, what kind of roles are you seeing kind of the main focus for the coming years?
I see the value in the work that I'm doing, like a data scientist. So I see the value there. Business analysts are still going to be needed. There is still like some of these things are just not going to get away from. But if I'm an organization trying to think about how to efficiently use resources, my resources are more expensive. Clearly, all these people are very, very educated people. However, we do save time and effort over time because we can, frankly, we cut out several layers, right, of people decisions need to go through. We try to be able to execute on our own, but also provide insight, like to the decision maker. And that whole juncture, where we're going, I think we're going into something like one of my partners calls it a data storyteller. I think that's where we're going. Data storytelling is really important. I think we like the idea that, we can feed a bunch of data and machine learn, and we can get great insights, but from a business perspective, that seems like something only like big companies are considering, right? I don't know that like of a smaller company that has the resources to even think about something like that. They just want their like Excel file that they're running some crazy process off, to continue to run in perpetuity, right? But these insights can be provided in any size of an organization, but it requires a data storyteller, because that storyteller, that communication piece, has become the most fundamentally important part, because people that are important might not know anything about statistics, might not know anything about math, might even be turned off by it, like they're an important person, and if they don't get it quickly, you might get resistance, right, of them listening to whatever you're saying. So the ability to accessibly and accurately communicate data is that's what I see the future is, because it's in every possible sector.
Absolutely. I think that's the power of where we're headed as well. A lot of these tools they're trying to get out of kind of the tier 1, tier 2 data coding and get it more to accessible to people who have that industry knowledge to be able to manipulate the data and really bring that story. As you work with your clients, are you building visualizations within the data sets? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh yeah. So we have pretty much majority Tableau. And we keep saying that we're what do we say? We're not beholden to a specific product, but it just has been that Tableau has been the thing we've used. Tableau is very powerful, but I can't say that Clicker, Power BI, or whatever can't do it just as well. But we do a lot of visualizations. Not every single analysis we do warrants a visualization, but we make a lot of them, and we've even evolved that to where we try to pull data storytelling into the Tableau, which is that we did COVID reporting for a long time, which was exhausting because it was every single day for 443 days before we got a day without a break, a day with a break. But we were feeding information that someone was going to speak to the public about, and we coded our Tableau to create sentences and sentences that were dynamic, and that saved us so much time. If it goes up, it goes down, you can read the sentence and it will be accurate, and I don't have to make sure that if I just put numbers, you're going to understand what it means. I know you can read the sentence. So Tableau has been really great in making it accessible. You could still scare decision makers. You could still scare people with visualizations because it's really, really powerful. You have to be really careful what kinds of things you provide. People like Excel tables, so they're really used to seeing spreadsheets, right? And a table in Tableau is not really interesting, right? You want bells and whistles. You want scatter plot, or these lollipop charts. Got to be careful on making sure your audience is prepared to understand it. But there's so much more information we can put out there in a dashboard. We love a tooltip. We love to put information inside of information. So I would say that some sort of visualization is needed, but for any data scientist, for sure. For sure. You're not going to get very far with just regurgitating Excel tables. It's just, it's useful. You're going to continue to do that, but it's not going to advance. You're not going to advance very much with that.
You mentioned that there are private entities that are looking more and more to these data sets and data storytelling. Can you talk a little bit? I know that you may not be able to talk about who exactly, but what kind of businesses are seeing the need for that and are moving towards that?
Well, for us, it's happened very organically. People we worked with and that were leaders in state government went into industry. And what they do, I want my data team with me. And that's how we've been most successful, is they knew the value of the work we did for when they were with the government. And so they've hired us on to do work for them in industry. So that's either another government entity in a different state, or a private entity still doing healthcare stuff, or a private association that kind of represents the interest of all these people. They see the value in the analysis. So, and they just got used to working with us. So they bring us along, and we've already helped their the organization in that data storytelling and finding problems and resolving it. I never feel like our service is expensive because we always find so much crap that they've got to clean up, you know. Like we're always finding problems in a good way, in ways that you know they can save money. So yeah, that we've also we've gotten into the academic space a little bit, where you know we've been hired as part of a randomized controlled trial study. So we were like the data handlers and you know the assigner, the randomizer. We maintain the identifying information, and that was part of like a grant for a long-term study. But there's been a lot of value in that. We've just learned so much with every one of our clients, and for the most part, what we learn is every organization, no matter how big they are or how small they are, doesn't know what's going on under the hood, right? Like there's always something to find.
Absolutely. Well, as you think about what that communication or explaining that value to it, a lot of these individuals in this class already have roles in organizations. And so being able to articulate the value of that, and you mentioned saving money, you mentioned increasing efficiencies, are some key things that you focus on when you're communicating the value of data analysis?
Yeah, it absolutely depends on whatever the analysis is. Sometimes it's straight up saving money. Sometimes it's avoiding fraud. Sometimes sometimes it's shining a light on a process that wasn't working that you thought was working. It really depends, and it depends on who the stakeholder is and what their viewpoint is. So sometimes I'm in the viewpoint of like we're trying to increase the quality of care. So I can, you know, put out a bunch of data and show that visually with why this does or does not improve the quality of care, and whether or not that means they should or should not continue with down that line of intervention. When it comes to saving money, it's usually really straightforward. It's like, well, if you put this much money into it, you're going to get this much out of it. Or, you know, we just did a little audit and we found, I don't know, $100 million of something that was coded wrong and was paying a little more than they should have been. And boy, aren't you glad we found it before some other audit did? You know, its value is just everywhere, and it's in every possible metric you can imagine.
Absolutely. Well, I want to make sure we cover anything that you want to touch on. Are there any last thoughts you might have that you want to share with the students?
I've found data science to be really interesting. For any person getting higher education, I would say that your career is what you make it, and if you follow the things you're interested in, you will find the value. You will find the passion about it. So for me, I started my career as a criminal prosecutor, which was great for a while, but I was always open to the idea of something different. And whatever you think this program is going to do for you, don't think of it as something that limits you to a certain set of options. You can use whatever you're learning now in absolutely anything you decide to do in the future. So I think more and also if you're getting in a data science period, clearly it's blowing up. It's a great thing to get into. I would just say data science plus whatever the thing is that you know a lot about, whatever your interest is. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Amy, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to share your thoughts on this. I want to see if our students have any questions, if you'd be willing for them to reach out to you, and if so, what would be the best way for them to contact you?
Best way would be to email me, amy.thorn@knowli.com, knowli.com, and I think you've got my email, so you can send it to the class.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Amy.